There are around 3,000 snake species worldwide, and of this 3,000, 600 of them are venomous, and of this 600, only approximately 200 are considered medically significant. So it's an extremely small proportion of snakes, and before getting into the video, I do have two major points to mention. Firstly, the intention behind this video is not to fearmonger snakes. By killing rodents, they limit crop damage and prevent the spread of deadly diseases, so they're an extremely necessary part of our ecosystem. Lastly, a bite from a venomous snake is often an occupational hazard in the rural tropics. This is a largely ignored public health crisis. Approximately 400,000 people annually face either death or permanent disability post-bite. And without access to healthcare due to a failing medical infrastructure, shortage of antivenoms, and a heavy cultural reliance on traditional healing, families are often pushed into generational medical debt. Below in the description, I've left some links to some interesting charities working towards better cohabitation for human and snake. Okay, so getting into the actual topic. First off, what is venom? It's simply modified saliva. It's a subset of poison that when injected into a wound via a bite or a sting, it causes medical complications, and it's comprised of a cocktail of proteins and enzymes. So I'm sure if you consumed any snake content online, you will have heard that the inland taipan has the most potent venom or is the deadliest snake.
Number 1. Inland taipan. Our number 1 contender is the inland taipan. Are you wondering why?
And I'm here to tell you that this is technically not the case, but let me explain. So the way venom's potency is determined is through what's called an LD50 test, or the lethal dose 50 test. The way this works is you take a sample population, typically mice, and split them into groups, and you inject varying dosages of venom and time how long it takes to kill exactly 50% of that sample population. So typically the lower the LD50 score, the more potent the venom, aka the deadlier the snake species, and the inland taipan does have the lowest LD50 score. Therefore, that would make it the most venomous snake, right? Well, not quite. The LD50 test is heavily flawed for a couple of reasons. For one, animal versus human physiology, so venom is extremely specialised for what it is taking down. For example, the mangrove snake's venom is designed to kill birds, because that's their prey. So it's up to 100 times more effective in bird muscle than it is mammalian. So in regards to when we're determining venom potency, if you're a bird, a bite from a mangrove snake is a death sentence, whereas for a mouse, barely reflects the potency of their venom. But ultimately the major flaw is that venom is extremely varied. It can vary drastically between different species, but also within the same species. And this variation can be driven by diet, geography, ecological factors. There's many explanations for this and without a real concrete answer. So take the Mojave rattlesnake, for example. Their venom changes from neurotoxic to hemotoxic upon location and the presence of what's called the Mojave toxin. Typically, we can split this into type A and type B. So type A contains the Mojave toxin in large quantities. This is highly neurotoxic, whereas type B has little to no Mojave toxin and attacks the tissues. They can be divided into either type, or they can have a combination of both types. The Mojave isn't the only example of this variation, it's just a better studied one. Every single species experiences this variation, and venom can even vary within the same individual across their lifetime. And to make things more complicated, they keep latent genes from the previous venom type. But what does all of this mean with regards to the LD50? Well, when venom varies so drastically, it'll have a dramatic effect on their LD50 score. Venom's ability to be lethal is determined by its specific molecular recipe, so changes in the concentration or the type affect how it'll affect biological systems. Not to mention how ethically complicated the LD50 test is. So what if we went a different way? The title is what's the deadliest snake, not which has the most capacity to be deadly. So what about the saw-scaled viper? The snakes with the most reported annual kills per year, they're responsible for approximately 5,000 deaths. Surely that would be the deadliest snake. Well, again, not quite. Firstly, the reason that number's approximate is because, as mentioned in the introduction, this is one of Asia's big four, as is the common krait, the Indian cobra, and the Russell's viper. This snake is common in rural agricultural communities. People often can't seek medical attention, is only lethal in 1.5 to 3% of cases with medical attention. So their death toll has a lot less to do with how medically significant they are and a lot more about the lack of antivenom availability. Second, by nature, this is a camouflaging species that lives in densely populated agricultural communities often heavily populated with rodents, far from anywhere, living without medical infrastructure, and they're quite prone to aggression, so unlike the reclusive, remote-living inland taipan. So simply because they're harder to spot and more likely to respond to someone stepping near them, they have a higher death toll. So I suppose if you wanted to calculate the deadliest snake based on danger to humans rather than capability to inflict damage, an argument could be made for the saw-scale viper, but even that has its flaws. Ultimately, it is near impossible to gauge which snake is the deadliest. However, it's very important that I reiterate, we cannot live without snakes, we need them. So once again, please go check out the links in the description to look into some of these wonderful charities that are doing work to find better cohabitation. Thank you so much for watching.